Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club. Yet another true crime podcast where two middle-aged friends exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome.
For more information, find us on Instagram and Facebook or check out our website at www.switchbladesisterssocialclub.com. Audience discretion advised.
Hi, welcome to Switchblade Sisters Social Club, where two friends exploit their worst fears for your entertainment.
You're welcome.
I'm Dee.
I'm Emma.
And this, my friends, is the last episode in this series. How did that happen?
I have no idea. Literally no idea.
It just has gone by so fun. I love every part of doing this because it's so fun to sit and just research. It feels like all the fun parts of university, where you got to sit around and read about stuff that interests you if you were lucky enough to go and do a course that you really liked, but without having to take any exams. You just get to talk about the fun stuff. It's not really fun. It's murder, but the fascinating stuff with your pal. And then other people listen and they tell you that was cool.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, isn't it?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
We had some momentous moments this season. We went to CrimeCon in London and met some amazing people, some other podcasters, some former police detectives, and a whole bunch of other really interesting people, authors, all kinds of people, as well as some of the listeners, some new listeners. And we had things like our interview with Louis Ferranti. That was so fun.
Loved it.
Yeah. And just a whole bunch of weird stuff. What's been the favorite part about podcasting for you?
Oh, good question. Just opening up a whole new thing for me, I think, because it is, obviously I'd listened to podcasts before, but just this that whole way of life is different for me. And also just when you meet people that are like, oh, I loved it, and all of that kind of stuff, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And then not to mention our events, which have been so much fun. We've got one coming up on 26th of March, and we've got a bunch more sort of planned throughout the year that we'll be announcing as time goes on. So please do sign up to our mailing list if you haven't, because then you get announcements of each episode as well as our events and any other news we may or may not have. Yeah, it's been so much fun. And we're probably we haven't decided how long we'll be off. Or maybe we have and I forgot, but it will probably be at least a month off. We've got a trip to South Africa, which we're super excited about. And then we're gonna come back and get back on it and release more stuff for you guys. So cannot wait. We'll do some brainstorming in South Africa. I think it'd be nice. Clear our head, work out what we're doing, plan our events, that kind of stuff, won't it? Be good to
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in this last episode, it's you presenting to me.
It is. It is. And I feel I need to say sorry to our lovely listeners because I have a cold. And so I have that cold, fuzzy brain and my voice is going, but I'm still going to power through it just for you sexy listeners, as ever.
And I just have a hangover. So reserve all your sympathy for Emma because mine was self-inflicted. And you know what? Fucking worth it because I went to go see Risky and the Ridicule last night at Signature Brew in sort of Walthamstow area, and it was so much fun with our dear friend Vicky, who is one of our favorite listeners, one of our sexy listeners, and one of our regular listeners. And yeah, so shout out to Vicky.
Yeah, I've had a lot of feedback from listeners around the Vampire of Sacramento case that I did.
Yeah,
lots of you guys thought it was proper grim, which it was, to be fair.
Vicky said she had to listen to it in 2 parts.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was a lot, but such a fascinating case, so thank you for picking it. But wow, some people are shit, huh?
Some people are not all there, that is for sure.
No. So how grim on a scale of 1 to Vampire Sacramento is this one?
That's going to be the scale from now on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, this one isn't as anything like as grim as that one, but this guy still did kill at least 10 people. So
Oh, pretty bad then. Pretty,
yeah,
pretty bad. Yeah.
but
Okay,
it
cool.
is mostly just people murders. So, the thing that we absolutely object to is animal cruelty. But,
We object to the
people,
human killing as well. It just call us hypocritical, call us horrible in ourselves, but it just hits different when it's puppies. Oh,
let's not go there. Let's not go there.
no, sorry, just
Let's talk about let's talk
stroking
about
Lola.
human murder.
Okay, yeah. So, what you telling me today?
Okay, so I am telling you about this guy called Dennis Rader, who is
Oh,
also known as BTK.
B.T.K. Oh my God. Such a good case.
Is this
Yes.
one on your list?
It's not on my list. Um, and I don't know why. I think I've just not added him to the list. But yeah.
Fair enough. Well, that's good. That's good because I'm not
Mhm.
stealing another one of your cases, which
Yeah.
is good.
I'm okay with that. I'm like, yes, I didn't have to do the research. Emma just told me the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dennis was born on the 9th of March, 1945. And for those of you that don't know, BTK stands for blind, torture, and kill. And he gave himself that name. Yay, lovely.
You know how I
Um,
feel
and
about like nicknames that kind of glamorize or sensationalize. Like the one I hate the most was the Camden Ripper because he was obsessed with Jack the Ripper. So he would have been so
we
ecstatic
love
with
that.
that nickname. Yeah.
Yeah,
I hate it. So this one he even gave it to himself.
yeah, yeah.
They
I
shouldn't
mean,
have that privilege.
fucking dick straight away
Yeah.
without killing 10 people.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So he murdered, as I said, at least 10 people in Wichita and Park City, which is in Kansas, between 1974 and 1991. So he's fairly well spread out. Um, Although he occasionally killed or attempted to kill men and children, mostly he was targeting women. So his victims were often bound with objects from their homes and either suffocated with a plastic bag or manually strangled with a ligature. And then he would also steal keepsakes from his female victims, including their underwear, driver's license, and personal items.
Something so gross about the trophies, isn't it?
I know. But what's even more gross is that people will now pay a shitload of money to get serial killers' trophies. Like,
Yeah, we had this
I just,
conversation when I went to the serial killer
yeah,
museum. It's something I'm going to do a little bit more research in because it's the same with other things like Nazi memorabilia. It's like, where's the line between keeping this sort of stuff so we don't forget and we learn from it and like glamorizing it and trading in
yeah,
it where people are getting profit from it, you know?
yeah.
It's a thin line and I don't know enough about like any of that to know.
No,
But just it definitely feels a bit icky when it's people collecting things for their private collection rather than like for
exactly.
museums
Yeah,
or academia
yeah,
or whatever, where you can totally sense that that is for research purposes, historical purposes, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah,
yeah.
it's just bizarre, isn't it?
I know. It's funny because obviously I know we've been doing the whole dating online thing, but this kind of guy that I'm seeing is really into Nazi Germany and all of that. So I've been watching like loads of documentaries on and
We should specify he's not a Nazi. He's not for the
no, no,
Nazis.
no, 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 no.
He's just
But
interested in that time period.
yeah, and to be honest with you, I've learned so much more about the Second World War than I ever knew, and it is fascinating. But the thing that I thought about was like Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, is still generating millions
Mhm.
for his estate, which apparently goes to like Holocaust victims and everything else now. But it's which is obviously great. But I thought actually that is a book that I wouldn't mind reading. Does that make me weird? Only
No,
because
it
I
doesn't.
think his mindset is fascinating.
Of course, and that goes back to sort of learning and understanding, like how we
Mm,
research true crime. It's true crime at a very grand, extreme level. The thing I can't get over though is when people like are communicating with some of these serial killers and stuff in prison and paying
mm,
for them to send artwork where they are profiting directly. It's sick enough when other people are profiting from it, trading it privately and this, that, and the other. But when the actual fucking serial killer is profiting. That I think is kind of like
yeah, 100%.
really, really key. So I'm glad to hear that Mein Kampf goes to like charity, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can you imagine?
Because
Oh my God.
we should still be studying that period in history. It's not an
Yeah,
isolated period in history,
no, it's
sadly,
not. It's
you
not.
know. It's
And really
Palestinian. I can
interesting.
confirm it's still ongoing.
Yeah. And
So,
also that how many German scientists America took, like people who should have been done for
yeah.
all the atrocities that they committed were actually given a free pass and given like they went
Yeah.
to America to work as scientists. And it's just
And then
like,
you think of all the other people that escaped, because they were Jewish or because they were likely to be targeted or because they really disagreed with the political regime. That like shaped whole other countries, all of these migrations and so forth. Again, being Palestinian, that part
yeah,
of history has very deeply affected my country and my people and whatever. So yeah, we should be studying all that sort of stuff, but I
no,
just don't
absolutely.
like bad guys profiting from us,
No,
expanding on our
absolutely
knowledge,
not.
you know?
Absolutely not. So sorry, went off on a bit of a
Yeah,
tangent there,
that's
but there you
us on our
go.
soapbox done.
Yep, done. So
Yeah.
back to BTK. Um, so he was the eldest of four boys, grew up in Wichita. And apparently, when obviously he was caught and everything else, he recalled feeling ignored by his mother.
This is going to sound really offensive. I've a little red flag from four boys because I just think that household must have been chaos,
Yeah,
because four children
yeah,
is a lot. Four boys, very rambunctious. Like, boys are different to girls when they're little. Like, I know my friends who have brothers, my guy friends who have brothers, and they talk about like breaking each other's bones quite regularly at childhood and whatever. I had a sister and we fought a lot, but very, very rarely physically.
yeah.
And
Oh, I physically fought with my brother. I remember one time he threw a dart in my foot, but I think I put a pitchfork through his foot. So, yeah,
yours sounds worse. Yeah.
potato, potato.
So yeah, I just think like it must have been difficult to grow up in a house with four boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, nightmare for his mum as well. But there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Um, so apparently from a young age, BTK, I don't want to call him that actually. I've changed my mind. I'm going to call him Rader, which is his
Yeah.
surname. He harbored sadistic sexual fantasies about torturing trapped and helpless women. He also, oh, sorry, I said that it wasn't as really bad, didn't I? I forgot about this bit. Shit, sorry.
Say it fast, say it fast.
So I didn't even know this was a word, but he exhibited zoo sadism by torturing, killing, and hanging small animals. Anyway, that's enough of that. He
Hmm.
acted out his sexual fantasies of voyeurism, autoerotic asphyxiation, and cross-dressing, often spying on female neighbors whilst dressed in women's clothing, including women's underwear that he had stolen. So this is before he did any murdering.
No
He,
problem with a guy wanting to wear women's clothing, obviously, but fucking buy it yourself.
yeah, and
And
don't
don't perv
perv.
on women while you're
Yeah, when
at any
yeah,
time, no matter what you're wearing. Don't perv
yeah,
on women who
exactly,
don't know you're perving on them.
exactly. He also masturbated with ropes or other bindings around his arms and neck. Okay,
Mm.
so as I said, this went on like his killing spree. The period was quite lengthy, um, and these became known as his cooling off periods between murders. So, but in these cooling off periods, he would quite often take pictures of himself wearing women's clothes and a female mask while bound. He admitted that he was pretending to be his victims as part of his sexual fantasy. However, he kept all of this really well hidden. and was widely regarded in his community as normal, and this is in quotation, normal, polite, and well-mannered.
Those are the freaky ones, aren't they? Where
Oh,
they're like
absolutely.
an accountant, a married accountant or something.
Yeah, always the way. It's always those accountants.
Sorry if you're an accountant.
um, so he graduated high school and then went to Kansas Wesleyan University. He only got mediocre grades because he was probably too busy wanking most of the time,
Hmm.
and dropped out after 1 year. He then went into the Air Force from 1966 to 1970. But on his discharge, he moved to Park City, back in Wichita. And then he worked in the meat department of an IGA supermarket where his mum was employed as a bookkeeper. She was an accountant.
She was an accountant.
Yeah. So he married Paula Dietz on the 22nd of May, 1971, and they had two children.
So before he
He,
started killing, in theory.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he actually went back to uni and got an associate degree in electronics engineering in 1973. And he then went to Wichita State University and graduated in 1979 with a Bachelor of Science degree majoring in administration of justice.
But he was smart.
Yeah.
And he had
Yeah. I
like
mean,
opportunities.
yeah. And I think as well, like, well, you might not think he's so smart when you hear the rest of it, but
He had
yeah,
potential
he had the
and
potential.
opportunities and a wife.
Yeah.
Like he had yeah, he had the chance to
Yeah,
not
he
be a
did.
serial killer.
Absolutely. He then went on to work for an outdoor supply company and then in the Wichita office of ADT Security Services from 74 to 88, where he ironically installed security alarms. And many of his clients were the concerned homeowners seeking security from his BTK killings. Yeah. Maybe he did it
Yeah.
to like get his numbers up. I don't
I don't
know.
know. It's like when you hear that like a lot of arsonists are firefighters trying to save their
Yeah,
jobs.
exactly. It must have given him a right kick, mustn't it? Like to know. But
Yeah. I'm making money off of this as well.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
ugh, hate
And
him.
I know he also was the field operations supervisor for the Wichita area in the 1990 federal census. So he was getting access to a lot of people,
And
basically.
information and oh, creepy. Oh my
Yeah,
God, being involved in the census is really
yeah, I know.
creepy.
I know. And actually, and this is another trigger warning alert. So in 1991, he became a dog catcher and a compliance officer in Park City. In this position, neighbours recalled him being sometimes overzealous and extremely strict, as well as taking special pleasure in bullying, as well as taking special pleasure in bullying and harassing single women. Two women he stalked in the 80s and one who he stalked in the 90s files restraining orders against him. And one of those women also changed her address to avoid him. Another neighbor complained that Rader had killed her dog for no reason. I know. Sorry, trigger warning over. And this is where
Back
it
to
gets
just
like,
human murders, yeah.
yeah. So he was, as I said before, he was known as being polite, well-mannered, all of this. And he actually was elected president of the church council in Wichita.
Oh, so he's religious too.
Yeah, yeah. And he was a Club Scout leader.
Oh, no. So
He
he
quite
was an
often,
upstanding member of
oh,
society.
absolutely,
No.
absolutely. And he would quite often use the Scouts as his alibi for the BTK killings. So yeah, maybe smart, maybe not. So back to his murders, which started in 74. He murdered four members of the Otero family in Wichita. Um, so he murdered the husband and wife, who were 38 and 33, a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old.
At the same
So
time, I presume, in the same
yeah,
incident. Ugh.
yeah. And their bodies were discovered by their family's older three children. So they had 5 children,
Oh,
they'd been at school during the time of the killings. He
oh,
was
that's
arrested in 2005 and he confessed to those murders. He claimed that he first targeted the family 2 months prior when he spotted the mum leaving to take her children to school and followed them. On the morning of January the 15th, he cut the phone lines and entered their residence when Joey opened the back door for the family dog. He told the family that he was a wanted man in California before he ordered them to lie on the living room floor at gunpoint, and he led the family into a bedroom and bound them with rope. Joseph and Joey, so the dad and the son, were restrained, and Joseph, who is the son, who's 9, his head was covered by a plastic bag, which Rader then secured with ropes. After Joseph chewed a hole in the bag, another bag was tightened over his head, causing him to slowly suffocate to death.
oh,
I know. He attempted to strangle the mum, later recalling that she had woken back up and she was pretty upset with what was going on. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. You're killing her son in front of her.
mm-hmm.
She had asked him to save her son, so he took the bag off and she screamed, "You killed my boy, you killed my boy." And then she said, "God had mercy on your soul." When he said, then he put her down permanently. He strangled her to death with a rope. And he then went and put another bag over Joey's head, because obviously he hadn't died by that point, and watched him thrash about. It's just like horrendous. Then there's the daughter who's 11. He hasn't dealt with her yet. He led her down into the basement where he hanged her with a noose from a pipe. And police later found his semen near her partially clothed body.
Oh,
I know. He then wrote a letter that he'd stashed in an engineering book in the public library where he describes those killings in detail.
did they find that book, I guess?
Yeah. But the thing is like, obviously, these were in the 70s. He didn't get caught until 2005. So he went for a long time without being
Yeah.
caught. So on the April the 4th, 1974, he broke into the home of Catherine Doreen Bright, who was 21, but was taken aback to discover her 19-year-old brother, Kevin, was also present in the property. He transported Catherine to another bedroom and tied her down after forcing Kevin, who was being held at gunpoint, to restrain his sister with a rope.
Oh,
He attempted to strangle Catherine before stabbing her 3 times in the back and lower abdomen with a knife when she struggled too much. Kevin was also strangled and shot in the head, but he survived. So
oh,
he pretended to be dead and later escaped. So
poor
even that
guy.
happened in the 70s and they didn't catch him. Like, no, they didn't know who he was. And then on March the 17th, 1977, so we're going ahead, what? Oh, 5, 6, so 3 years. Shirley Ruth Relford, 25, was found dead in her home. Rader was pursuing her and located her by following her 5-year-old son to her home. Not quite sure how that happened, but anyway. He entered the residence and produced a handgun from his jacket, frightening the family. He tied up the 3 children and locked them in the bathroom. He then took Relford, who's the mum, who's 25, to the rear bedroom. She vomited before being tied to the bedpost by her legs, and then he strangled her with a rope and placed a plastic bag over her head, while her children screamed and banged down in the hallway. He intended to murder the children, although they escaped before he could, thank God.
Mhm.
So in December of the
Oh,
same year,
can I just ask, how quickly did
hmm,
authorities work out that this was the same person?
not very quickly,
Oh
because I think
dear.
they were so random. They were
Yeah,
so random. They
yeah.
yeah, they had no idea. Because he didn't, so the the brother and sister, he didn't use a plastic bag or anything.
Yeah.
So,
So his
and
victimology
some
is
was
slightly
shot.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, some were stabbed. Yeah, he was very random. Um, in December 1977, he noticed Nancy Jo Fox, who was 25, going into her home, and he marked her as a potential next victim and began stalking her. He knocked at the door. When no one answered, he cut the phone lines before breaking in, waiting for her to come home. He said he later described this murder as what I call perfect, the perfect hit. Although she gave me a lot of verbal static, she cooperated and she didn't fight me. I had complete control of her. Rader killed Fox by strangling her with his own belt on her bed. And before he killed her, he told her that he was responsible for the Otero murders. This is where it gets like really odd, because obviously we've talked about him being fairly clever in the way that he's doing things, but he actually the next day after he killed her, he called the police from a payphone, telling them that they would find her body.
He's getting cocky and wants some attention, and maybe he's
100%.
annoyed that they haven't linked his crime, so he's not getting credit for all of
Yeah,
his
I think that,
twisted.
and you'll see like he gets even more cocky. Um, he on February the 10th, so the police still haven't linked the murders or think about him. So a couple of months later, so in February 1978, he sent a letter to Wichita television station KAKE, claiming responsibility for the murders. He suggested many possible names for himself, including BTK, and he demanded media attention and saying, how many do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national
Oh,
attention?
so he sent a bunch of recommendations? Ew.
Yeah.
I have some
He also,
recommended names for him.
yeah, exactly. He also wrote a poem entitled "Oh Death to Nancy," a parody of
Ugh.
the lyrics to the American folk song "Oh Death." And he claimed to be driven to kill by Factor X, which he characterized as a supernatural element that also motivated Jack the Ripper, the son of Sam, and the Hillside Stranglers. He also asked the police to send him a hidden message on TV.
Mhm.
In response, and with the knowledge that the BTK killer watched KAKE, they might say cake, but I'm going to say KAKE.
Mhm.
They decided to flash a subliminal, I can't say that word, subliminal,
Mhm. Totally
subliminal,
correct. Yeah.
that one, yeah, message during one of the station's evening newscasts for a split second. The message stated, now call the chief, and featured a drawing of an upside down pair of glasses which were found at the Fox crime scene. They hoped the message would influence the killer to turn himself in, but it was unsuccessful. I do actually have that message.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just bring it up.
That's
Oh, sorry,
bizarre.
computer doesn't want to play. It's not very big, unfortunately.
Hard to get imagery from some of the older crimes, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's what flashed up.
And so you're saying he would know what that meant, that that was for him.
I guess it was only really the glasses um, that were left at the crime scene. I mean, I'm not surprised that didn't work, to be fair, but
And what, did they only do it once? He might have been out
yeah,
stalking, you know?
yeah, he probably was. It.
I'm hating this guy
Oh, yeah,
a
he's an
lot.
absolute arse. Yeah, absolute arse. And the fact that he got away with it for so long,
Yeah. Had a whole life.
a good one as well.
Mhm.
Um, sorry. So at during this time, he also had intended to kill others, such as Anna Williams, who was 63, who in
Bizarre.
1971, yeah, I know, older,
Yeah.
She escaped death by returning home much later than expected. He explained, so Rader explained during his confession that he'd become obsessed with her and I was absolutely livid when she evaded him. He recalled spending hours at her home, but became impatient and left when she didn't return because she was visiting friends.
Oh, Anna. Thank God
Yeah,
she had friends.
yeah. So then he didn't murder anybody else for 6 years. He murdered Maureen Hedge, who was 53, um, in 1985.
And do we know
And
he definitely didn't kill anyone in that time? Like, has he confessed to all of
no,
his murders, or is it just
well,
possible we just don't haven't linked other murders to him?
it is very possible that other murders haven't been linked to him. But I think the way they were thinking was he's confessed to all of these other ones, so why
Mm.
wouldn't he confess to any that he didn't?
Yeah, and it
So
seems like once he got busted and once he's like done for however many crimes, I feel like he sounds like the type that would want to get credit for all of them, you know,
100%.
at the point where it's
Yeah,
not going to make much difference to his time in jail because he's clearly going for the rest of his life. I think he'd
exactly.
probably want to throw in all of them in there, huh?
Yeah.
It's just
But
bizarre when
he's
they have these cooling down periods that go on for years and years. And I know they say it can be something in their personal life or work life or what financial, whatever that triggers them again.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what if there were any triggers, but yeah.
I mean, it could be
He
something little, you know?
yeah, someone pissed him off on the way home. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so um he, as I said, is getting more cocky. Obviously, he's writing into TV stations, but this is now years ago. But remember I said that he was the president of church council. When he killed Maureen, he actually took her body to the church that he was church council of.
Whoa.
He photographed her body in various suggestive positions. He had previously stored black plastic sheets and other material at the church in preparation for the murder, and then later dumped the body in a remote ditch. So he didn't leave her body in the church, he just took photos of her there.
Gross.
So then a year and a bit later, he then in 1986, he strangled Vicky Lynn Wedgley, who's 28. So we've gone back to the younger ones. He strangled her with a nylon stocking in her house. And he entered the residence by pretending to be a telephone repairman. He rearranged her clothes and took a number of photos of her nude body. I know. So his final victim, thank the Lord, is Dolores Erlene. Everyone called her Dee Davis. She's 62 and she was found dead on the 1st of February 1991. So again, we're another 5 years later. He killed her a couple of weeks beforehand by strangling her with her pantyhose.
And it seems like after the initial couple of crimes, he's leaned towards like women on their own
Mm,
rather than ones with husbands, partners, kids, whatever. So he's obviously worked out that's easier
yeah,
than dealing with multiple people in one at the same time. Ugh.
yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting talking about whether there were any other victims because in 2023, the Associated Press reported that he was considered the prime suspect in two further killings in Oklahoma and Missouri, as police discovered possible trophies from victims after searching for evidence at his home.
Mm.
So yeah, they were added to his potential ones, but he never confessed to
Yes.
them. So that was a 16-year-old, Cynthia Dawn Kenny, but she was killed in 1976. But I don't think they ever found her body. So we then get to 2004, and basically all of the killings were considered cold cases. However, He obviously wasn't happy about this. And he initiated a series of 11 communications to local media, which led directly to his arrest in February 2005. So in March 2004, the Wichita Eagle received a letter from someone using the name Bill Thomas Kilman, B.T.K, claiming that he had murdered Vicky Wedgell. I think I totally mispronounced her name earlier. I did. She was the one he'd killed in 1986 and strangled to death with her stocking. Enclosed with the messages were photos of the crime scene and a photocopy of her driving license, which had been stolen at the time of the crime. Prior to this message, it had not been definitively established that Vicky was killed by BTK. However, DNA collected from under her fingernails provided police with previously unknown evidence, and they began testing hundreds of men in an effort to find the killer.
So they didn't
More
know
than
that that one was linked to BTK until
no,
he basically proved it. Because, I mean, it sounds like he sent stuff that you just couldn't dispute came from the killer. And
yeah,
because of that, they knew the evidence that they had from
yeah,
that case would tie into whoever did all the others.
yeah,
Oh my God, he's really like, yeah, it makes you wonder, does he want to get caught? Because I know some of our former police officers that we've talked to, they've told us like it's a myth that serial killers want to get caught, but they do want like notoriety or whatever. So like
yeah,
you say, he
absolutely.
probably just annoyed that he wasn't getting attention anymore. A sulky little fucking pathetic child.
Yep. And obviously back in the 70s, 80s, DNA testing wasn't such a thing, was it?
No.
So more than 1,300 DNA samples were taken, but they were later destroyed by court order. In May 2004, so we've gone from March to May, Cake again, Kake,
Mhm.
received a letter with chapter headings for the BTK story, fake IDs, and a word puzzle. On June the 9th, a package was found taped to a stop sign on the corner of First and Kansas Roads in Wichita, which contained graphic descriptions of the Otero murders and a sketch labeled "The Sexual Thrill Is My Bill." Also enclosed was a chapter list for the proposed book titled The BTK Story, which mimicked a story written in 1999 by court TV crime writer David Law. Chapter 1 was titled A Serial Killer is Born. In July, so he's gone from May, the letter with the chapter headings, June, the package, now in July. So he's obviously like, you're still
Pay
not figuring
attention
it
to
out.
me. Pay attention
Yeah.
to me.
So July, a package was dropped into the return slot at a public library, which contained more bizarre material, including the claim that BTK was responsible for the death of 19-year-old Jake Allen earlier that month. This claim was false, and that death was ruled as a suicide. Random.
Hmm.
I don't understand that. After his capture, Rader admitted in his interrogation that he had been planning to kill again, and he had set a date of October 2004 and was stalking his intended victim. That month, a manila envelope was dropped into the UPS box in Wichita. It contained many cards with images of terror and bondage of children pasted on them. A poem threatening the life of lead investigator Lieutenant Ken Landwehr, and a false autobiography with many details about Rader's life. These details were later released to the public. So then in December 2004, the Wichita police received another package from the
Hang on
killer.
a second. Hang on a second. Can you say something?
Hello?
My headphones just went. I might have to just revert to speakers. Hang on. Um, say something?
Hello?
Yeah, perfect. Okay. In December.
Yeah. So in December 2004, Wichita police received another package from the killer. This time, the package was found in Wichita Murdoch Park. It contained a driving license of Nancy Fox, which was noted as stolen from the crime scene, as well as a doll that was symbolically bound at the hands and feet with a plastic bag tied over its head. In January 2005, Rader attempted to leave a cereal box in the bed of a pickup truck at a Home Depot in Wichita, but the box was discarded by the truck's owner. It was later retrieved from the trash after Rader asked what had become of it in a later message. Surveillance tape of the parking lot from that date revealed a distant figure driving a black cheap Cherokee, leaving the box in the pickup. In February 2005, more postcards were sent to KAKE, and another cereal box left in a rural location was found to contain another bound doll. I mean, this guy, seriously. In his letters to police, Rader asked if his writings, if put onto floppy disk, could be traced or not. The police answered his question in a newspaper ad posted in the Eagle, saying it would be safe to use the disk. On February the 16th, 2005, Rader sent a purple 1.44 megabyte Memorex floppy disk to Wichita station KSAS-TV. I know, floppy disk.
Yeah.
Also enclosed were a letter, a gold-coloured necklace with a large medallion, and a photocopy of the on the cover of Rules of Prey, a 1989 novel by John Sandford about a serial killer. Police found metadata embedded in the deleted Microsoft Word document that was unknown to Rader, still stored on the floppy disk. The metadata contained the words Christ Lutheran Church, and the document was marked as last modified by Dennis. An internet search determined that as Dennis Rader, and he was president of the church council, so he fucked himself.
I just think it's hilarious that he's like, hey guys, can you trace me if I send you this? And they're like, yeah, absolutely not. Don't worry about it. Like, would you believe them?
No.
Yeah, you're right.
No.
Maybe it's stupid.
Yeah.
Also, he's
So
got
they
an electrical engineering background. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be good at computers, but uh, yeah, whatever.
I know.
Bizarre.
So they drove past his house, and there was a black Jeep Cherokee which had been seen on the CCTV. This was strong circumstantial evidence against him, but they still needed more. So this is a bit of shit, but they obtained a warrant to test a pap smear taken from his daughter
Oh,
at the Kansas State University Medical Clinic. DNA test showed a familial, that's right, isn't it?
familial.
Match between the pap smear and the sample from Vicky Wegel's fingernails. So this indicated that the killer was closely related to his daughter.
Ugh, I mean, that's awful. I totally get
Yeah.
why they did that. It's just like awful that they
She
had
like
to.
I think she wrote a book about it like later. There's like loads of stuff I looked into. And
If
you know,
that happened to
she
me, I'd be very happy ultimately to contribute. You would definitely feel like violated.
yeah. So this was obviously enough for them to arrest Rader. He was arrested whilst driving near his home shortly after noon on the 25th of February, 2005. And the officer asked him, do you know why you're going downtown? And he said, oh, I have suspicions why. So the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the police, the FBI, and the ATF searched his home and vehicles, seizing evidence including computer equipment, a pair of black pantyhose retrieved from a shed, and a cylindrical container. His office at the church was also searched, and the Park City Library. At a press conference the next day, they announced the bottom line is BTK has been arrested. So he was charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. And the Associated Press cited an anonymous source alleging that he'd confessed to the other murders in addition to those which had not been connected. However, the district attorney denied this story and refused to say whether or not he had made any confessions or if the investigators were looking into his possible involvement in more unsolved killings. On March the 5th, news sources claimed to have verified by multiple sources that he had confessed to 10 murders that he was being charged with, but no others. His bail was set at $10 million, and a
How is he
public
getting
defender.
any bail?
I know, that just seems like just come up with the biggest number you can.
Yeah.
And he had a public defender. He entered his pleas as not guilty, and he didn't speak at his arraignment. Um, However, on June the 27th, so we've gone from March to June, he changed his plea to guilty and described the murders in detail to the court and made no apologies. And obviously, their families would have been there for that, which is shit.
And it would be public
Yeah.
documents. Oh,
Yeah. So on August the 18th, at his sentencing, the victims' families made statements, and then he did apologize, but in a rambling 30-minute monologue. And they said it was almost like an Academy Awards acceptance speech.
ugh.
But they also said that it's been described as an example of an often observed phenomenon. All of these words that I can't say today. Phenomenon, phenomenon.
Oh, bless you.
Cold
We get what
brain.
you mean. Don't worry.
Yeah. Among psychopaths and their inability to understand the emotional content of language. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years. They did not enforce the death penalty at that time. And then on August 19th, he was moved to the El Dorado Correctional Facility.
That might have been part of the deal. Like, okay, fine, I'll confess. I'll plead guilty, but take the death penalty off the table.
Yeah. I do have a picture of him when he was arrested.
Ugh. I
Yeah,
remember
he
he looks
looks,
like an accountant, doesn't he?
wow, he looks like a psycho.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah,
Literally can't
he
look at
doesn't he doesn't look like a man I want to trust.
No. But people obviously did. He was like
Yeah,
president at the church and working for Boy Scouts and whatever.
absolutely.
Ugh.
Apparently, during the 45-minute trip to the prison, he talked about innocuous topics like the weather, but began to cry when the victims' family statements from the court proceedings were put on the radio. He's now in solitary confinement for his protection. He has 1 hour of exercise a day and showers 3 times a week, and this will likely continue until his death. However, in 2006, he was allowed to access TV and radio, to read magazines, and other privileges for good behavior.
What's he gonna do bad in solitary confinement? Do you know
I
what I
know,
mean?
I know. The police did look to see if they could get him the death penalty, because it was reintroduced in Kansas in 1994, but they investigated and investigated and they couldn't find that he'd done any murders after that date. So
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah. But also, I guess he confessed to those 10 murders, but he knew he wasn't going to get a death penalty because it wasn't there.
So he might
So
not have confessed to some because it would have meant death
mm,
penalty. Because we were
mhm,
like, why wouldn't he just confess to all of them? Well, there's a good reason why he
exactly.
might
Yeah.
have left some out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be surprised to know that a psychologist said that he had narcissistic, obsessive compulsive, and antisocial personality disorders.
I am not surprised.
No, he said that he had a grandiose sense of self, a belief that he is special and therefore entitled to special treatment, a pathological need for attention and admiration, and a preoccupation with maintaining rigid order and structure, a complete lack of empathy.
Yeah, that's not a good
They,
combo.
you can also, if you really want to look at it, find a video of his interview with the police.
I struggle with those. I watch them
Mm,
sometimes, and they're normally like so revealing, aren't they? Like that one, I can just have Levi Belfield blazed into my memory where he literally turned his chair around and just face the wall. He even put
Yeah.
his feet up on the wall, I think. Like, and you're just like, wow, you were an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was the BTK killer.
That was intense.
Mm.
That was intense. I know that like the 70s was like ripe in the States with serial killers. I think it must be because like reporting went up and like linking crimes was being a bit more efficient. So, there's probably loads before then, but they were just knowing about them a bit more.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
like, like cancer rates are not going up necessarily. It's just we're diagnosing them more. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. But I like to think that with like modern technology and stuff, even like phone signals and obviously DNA and whatever, that it's making it harder to be a serial killer, right? Because
Yeah.
we're likely to be caught earlier on, which is a relief.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not surprised he started in the 70s, as far as we know. Just seemed like prime killer era. But yeah, what a guy. What a guy.
Mm. Hmm. Your face says it all.
Want to lighten the mood a bit?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so because we want to lighten the mood, we're not going to do an application for dating because also we've
Thank
none.
God.
But we were talking about it for ages, how we're going to do a different thing to end season 5 because actually, as you said, this applied to date us was soul destroying.
Absolutely.
So we decided we're going to have a new thing called the Ink-Quisition,
Hmm.
where on our website and the link in the bio on Instagram, stuff like that, you can make sure you have a picture ready that you submit. Hang on, needed a yawn. Where you submit a photo of a tattoo, and you can do multiple entries if you've got more than one tattoo you want to submit, and tell us about it. And we will then talk about it. Maybe judge, maybe laugh, maybe cry. Who knows?
Maybe admire.
Maybe admire. If you don't have tattoos, someone asked me this, if you don't have any tattoos, can you submit the one you really want to get? And we will tell you whether you
Mm,
should get it or not.
absolutely. And where on your body
Yeah.
you're going to have it.
Yeah. So so we're just gonna have a bit of fun with it. So please do consider it. And equal opportunities podcasters, we will of course be judging some of our own tattoos as well. Don't think we're just going to be making fun of yours. We will also make fun of ourselves. I have a lot of ammo for this section, for example. Emma less so. And also the one tattoo you hate is the one that I have matching.
And the one that I'm getting removed. Yeah.
That one, yeah. More on that in episode 1 of season 5. But yeah, so please do submit. We've already had some amazing submissions. I cannot wait.
Oh,
I've not been
amazing.
looking at them. I want to look at them live with you on the podcast, but I can just tell by the names that they are going to be good.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Mhm. So, and Pat, you showed me a tattoo at our last event, and I told you that you have to submit this tattoo. So that is one I have seen in advance and I'm keeping an eye out for because that one will go straight to the top of the list because it's so random and amazing. And I think you'll find it fucking hilarious. So
Okay.
the Inquisition, submit your tattoos for judgment. That is our new end segment. So please get involved. We just actually really love learning more about our listeners as well. Because we love like the moments where we get some feedback, right? And some interaction with them. Because sometimes it just feels like we're just talking to ourselves and to each other, which we love anyways. It's no
Yeah.
problem. It's just nice to be reminded, oh, there's people also listening, which is kind of cool. So so we want you to submit those.
Please.
Hmm. And we will, of course, share the tattoos that we discuss on our socials so that you can also comment. Yeah.
Amazing.
All right. Well, that's the end of season 4.
Oh my God. How has that happened?
I'm actually a little bit sad about it.
Me too. Thank you for guiding me through it and being the best co-host ever.
Oh, you've been absolutely amazing right off the bat. And I messaged you the other day when I was editing an episode where I was like, you were amazing right from the start, but you like just got so comfortable so quickly and it was just so awesome. And I know that
Ah,
everyone also thinks that too. Even my former co-host, Rhonda, who absolutely told us the other day that she loves just listening to the podcast, basically not having to do any work around it, but just being able to enjoy the podcast. I was like, yeah, that does sound fun. So,
yeah,
right, we hope you guys don't fall off the wagon completely while we're gone and forget to come back to us for season 5. We will have events. We will obviously post little reels and updates. We're going to post about stuff from South Africa. We're going to be washing elephants on our birthday because we're going to be celebrating our birthday in Kruger National Park. So, follow us on
amazing.
socials. Join up our mailing list if you want us to email you when things are happening and this, that, and the other. And we love you all so much, and we just find you the sexiest listeners.
Absolutely.
Emma, love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.